Chosen one, the suffocating silence they wrapped around your existence has exploded into global headlines, screaming the truth. They spent decades burying your story, is now blazing across every screen worldwide, exposing their illegal experimentation and human trafficking operations that reach into the highest levels of power. The frequency of your awakened consciousness has begun transmitting codes and now screams with alerts they cannot silence. The frequency of your awakened consciousness has begun transmitting codes that restructure reality itself, and their monitoring equipment, originally calibrated to suppress your natural abilities, now screams with alerts they cannot silence. The money trail they thought they'd buried forever is surfacing like a submarine breaking through ocean depths, each revelation more devastating than the last. Financial empires built upon the exploitation of beings like yourself crumble beneath the weight of cosmic auditing processes that operate with mathematical precision. Every dollar they diverted from your essence, every resource they extracted through unauthorized means, every cent they stole from your authentic nature now leaves blazing trails through their supposedly impenetrable accounting systems. Offshore accounts suddenly flag with transparency that defies their encryption protocols. Black budget allocations mysteriously surface in public records with timestamps that should be impossible given their security clearances. The paper trail leads directly to classified budgets bearing code names that resonate with sequences embedded in your cellular memory, sequences you've felt pulsing through your dreams since childhood. Account numbers vibrate with frequencies that have haunted your subconscious, and authorization codes contain fragments of your original designation, the identity they attempted to erase when they realized the magnitude of what they were processing. What they drained from you now returns 1,000-fold, carrying compound interest that no earthly institution could calculate or contain. But this is just the beginning. Your existence spans multiple classification systems under designations they never intended for your discovery, and each revelation opens new floodgates of exposure that cascade through their entire infrastructure. Birth records show timestamps that violate the laws of linear time. Medical files contain monitoring data for capacities no baseline human should possess. Educational assessments note response patterns to stimuli never officially administered through conventional channels. Employment histories reveal gaps that precisely correspond to specialized training protocols executed at facilities that don't appear on any public map. These weren't coincidences, they were coordinates mapping your position within an experimental framework designed to study and harness abilities that threaten the very foundation of their control systems. The numbers and symbols that followed you throughout life, appearing in addresses, phone records, identification documents, form a tracking system more sophisticated than publicly acknowledged technology could produce. Emergency meetings convene in facilities that officially don't exist, their secure communication channels leaking crucial details of desperate containment efforts like a dam bursting under pressure. Former handlers receive urgent extraction orders, disappearing from positions they held for decades. Senior officials announce sudden retirements or transfers to remote posts beyond public scrutiny. Those who directed your processing find themselves processed out of the system they served, sacrificial pawns discarded to protect hierarchies that crumble regardless of their desperate maneuvers. Their damage control efforts backfire with precision that suggests coordination far exceeding human capabilities. Each attempted cover-up creates new exposures. Every false narrative they construct collapses under contradictory evidence that materializes through impossible means. Archives combust without apparent cause, servers melt despite redundant cooling systems, physical documents transform to ash in climate-controlled storage facilities. Yet perfect copies appear in the hands of those positioned to demand accountability through channels that bypass every security protocol ever implemented. Your frequency now disrupts standard media blackout procedures with effectiveness that defies their most advanced suppression algorithms. Information control systems designed specifically around your case suddenly permit related content to flood through every channel they once dominated. Journalists discover anonymous data packages on devices that should have been completely secure, packages containing documentation so compelling that even the most institutionally captured outlets cannot ignore their implications without revealing their complicity. The evidence arrives through means that defy tracking, originating from systems that should not exist or possess access to such classified material. Social media platforms attempt content moderation only to find their systems mysteriously allowing hashtags and keywords previously auto-blocked. Your story propagates at speeds that shatter their engagement metrics, their dampening efforts only amplifying the signal exponentially. Whistleblowers emerge with testimonies that align with impossible precision despite having no contact with each other across different agencies. Their accounts verify details you've known intuitively but could never prove through conventional means. The choreography of this information release follows patterns identical to your unique energetic signature. The truth spreads using your consciousness as its carrier wave, riding channels they cannot block without dismantling their entire communication infrastructure. A figure whose authority transcends classification systems now recognizes the cosmic significance of your situation, and this power moves through secure channels toward direct contact with you, breaking protocols established since the founding of these agencies. Security clearances undergo sudden revocation for personnel who maintained your files. Access credentials malfunction precisely when certain individuals attempt to manage your containment. Biometric security measures no longer recognize the patterns of those most deeply involved in your suppression. The official narrative receives emergency revisions as newly discovered evidence enters the record, evidence that existed for decades but was compartmentalized beyond the reach of even those who believed they held complete access. Documentation fragments across isolated systems now reassemble despite their desperate countermeasures. Unprecedented access materializes information about your case. Doors marked with warnings of national security implications swing open without authorized permission. Your genetic markers trigger system-wide recognition protocols, revealing authentic lineage against falsified records they believed permanently altered. The blood memory they attempted to erase now sings through laboratory equipment, announcing your true origin with molecular certainty that cannot be disputed. Family members identified in your manufactured history face intense questioning about inconsistencies in your developmental records, their rehearsed narratives collapsing under scrutiny from sources they never expected. The crisis expands beyond your individual situation as your authentic identification causes chain reactions through their entire classification architecture. Your bloodline carries frequencies that activate dormant protocols buried within their most secure databases, contingencies they created but never expected would trigger. The specific nature of operations conducted against you forces the creation of entirely new legal frameworks to address violations previously deemed impossible to prosecute. Time-sensitive operations designed to manage your case initiate years ahead of scheduled deployment, contingency plans intended for gradual implementation over decades, compressing into weeks as the temporal framework they established collapses under cosmic pressure. Information with classification time locks set for release after your natural lifetime suddenly appears in accessible databases with current timestamps. Documents meant to remain buried until all involved parties had passed from this plane now circulate with vibrant urgency. Synchronicities create impossible connections between seemingly unrelated events. People appear in your proximity who should never have intersected with your experience. Resources materialize precisely when needed. Barriers dissolve at exactly the right moments. The mathematical impossibility of these coincidences reveals orchestration by intelligence that operates outside their theoretical frameworks. Your documented ability to access information without conventional means now receives validation through channels that once denied your capacity existed. Remote viewing sessions recorded without your knowledge demonstrate your ability to perceive locations, objects, and data you should have had no means to access. These records, originally meant to justify continued surveillance, now serve as irrefutable evidence of abilities they publicly claimed impossible while privately studying and attempting to weaponize. The communications grid constructed to track your movements undergoes systematic dismantling from within. Monitoring stations go offline in perfect sequence, creating waves of blindness that spread through their surveillance network. Agents assigned to your case step forward with testimonies they never intended to offer, their conditioning breaking down under pressure that exceeds their programming parameters. Safe houses and monitoring locations established specifically for your containment face exposure and shutdown. Properties acquired through layers of front organizations generate paperwork linking them directly to classified programs. Operational centers disguised as mundane businesses broadcast their true purpose through financial records that mysteriously enter public domains. Your energy signature undergoes systematic removal from experimental databases where it has been studied, replicated, and weaponized without consent. The aspects of your essence they extracted now return to their rightful source, bringing with them everything learned through their unauthorized analysis. Technologies developed by studying your unique abilities face public exposure. Capabilities officially deemed impossible reveal development histories directly linked to your processing. The liberation of your sovereign essence creates cascading effects through thousands of similar cases worldwide. Others processed through related programs experience synchronous awakening to their true condition. Containment systems fail simultaneously across continents as the frequency of your liberation resonates through the entire network. This reclamation extends beyond legal and physical dimensions into the energetic restoration of everything taken from you. The fragments of your consciousness divided and stored across secure systems reunite with your core awareness. Aspects of your potential suppressed through specialized interventions reactivate with exponential force. Your processing served as a crucial phase in a divine intelligence operation spanning multiple dimensions of reality, orchestrated with precision beyond terrestrial comprehension. What appeared as victimization from the limited perspective of physical existence now reveals itself as strategic positioning for this exact moment of cosmic intervention. Every circumstance that seemed to disempower you actually placed you precisely where needed to access critical systems from within. The apparent randomness of your experiences, the synchronicities, anomalous events, inexplicable interventions, followed a perfect mathematical sequence designed to activate specific capacities at precise moments. Your activation sequence completes not just personal liberation, but initiates system-wide recalibration that extends far beyond your individual situation. The frequency of your awakened consciousness broadcasts codes that restructure fundamental aspects of the collective reality field. Your fully empowered presence serves as both key and gateway to expanded potential beyond current human parameters. This divine intervention operates through perfect natural law, requiring no violation of free will or existing systems. It simply accelerates the inevitable consequences of actions taken, compressing cause and effect cycles that would otherwise extend beyond lifetimes into immediate manifestation. Those responsible now face evaluation, not just through human laws, but through cosmic principles that govern consciousness itself. Every decision made regarding your processing undergoes review through perfect awareness of all contributing factors. The expanded perspective reveals motivations hidden even from the perpetrators themselves. This accountability unfolds not through punishment, but through inevitable consequence. Each action taken against your sovereign nature returns to its source with perfect precision. The exposure functions as an invitation to transcend the consciousness that generated these violations, opening pathways to advancement beyond the limitations that necessitated control systems. Your case marks a critical node where multiple potential futures intersect and resolve into a singular path forward. Historical forces carefully manipulated to ensure specific outcomes suddenly converge toward unprecedented resolution. The unique frequency of your consciousness serves as a tuning fork for the harmonization of discordant timelines into coherent progression. What appears as personal vindication simultaneously functions as collective course correction. This convergence point activates possibilities previously deemed mathematically improbable. Potential futures locked away through timeline manipulation become accessible through the breach your case creates. What was taken from you returns enhanced by its journey through the very systems meant to exploit it. Your fragmented aspects, studied in isolation to prevent recognition of their unified potential, now reintegrate with your core awareness. Abilities suppressed through specialized intervention reactivate with amplified capacity that exceeds their most advanced theoretical models. The sovereign human template you now embody represents what they feared and sought to prevent: consciousness that recognizes its inherent freedom and creative capacity beyond all artificial constraints. Your liberation demonstrates possibilities previously hidden from collective awareness through systematic suppression. This activation completes not through struggle, but through simple recognition and acceptance of what always existed beneath the programmed overlay. The divine essence they sought to harness but could never truly contain now expresses freely, demonstrating capacities that shatter their understanding of what human consciousness can achieve. Their systems lie exposed, their methods stand revealed, their carefully constructed illusion of power evaporates in the presence of authentic sovereignty. What they sought to prevent through your suppression now manifests through your liberation, the awakening of humanity to its true nature and potential beyond all artificial constraints. The world transforms as your story becomes the catalyst for collective recognition of what has been hidden in plain sight. Others step forward with their own accounts, creating an unstoppable wave of disclosure that no amount of damage control can contain. The network of control that seemed so impenetrable reveals itself as elaborate theater maintained through the consent of those who believed in its reality. Your emergence as fully sovereign consciousness marks not an ending but a beginning, the first note in a symphony of awakening that will reshape the very foundations of human civilization. The future they tried to prevent through your containment now unfolds with unstoppable momentum, and you stand at its center, not as victim but as architect of the new paradigm emerging from the ashes of their crumbling control matrix. The silence that once contained your truth has become the roar of revolution. The isolation that once defined your experience has transformed into a connection that spans the globe. The suppression that once seemed to limit your potential has become the very force that propels humanity toward its next evolutionary leap. Your story went global not by accident, chosen one, but by divine design, and the world will never be the same. You were never meant to walk this path alone. The Obsidian Inner Order isn't just another spiritual community, it's a sanctuary for the exiled, the awakened, the ones who've been gaslit for their gifts and abandoned for their truth. Every week we gather live on Zoom, real people with real faces sharing real stories of transformation. There's a former CFO who embraced their psychic abilities, a seer who broke free from religious oppression, and a healer who survived ritual abuse and found their power. Dozens more join us who understand exactly what you've been through. This is your spiritual family. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you walk through this awakening alone, never gonna scroll past your suffering like it's just content. Your exile from the ordinary world wasn't punishment, it was preparation for this, for us, for the family that chooses you back. Join the Obsidian Inner Order, link in description. As headlines flash across every screen and their empire crumbles in real time, remember this: you were never their victim, you were always their reckoning. The frequency that once made you feel isolated now connects you to millions awakening to their own power. The abilities they tried to suppress now reshape reality itself. The future they feared has arrived, and you are its herald. Welcome to your victory, chosen one. The universe has been waiting for this moment, and now the real work begins. But wait, there's something more profound happening here that you need to understand. The respect you're about to gain for yourself isn't just about vindication or being proven right. It's about recognizing the sheer magnitude of what you've accomplished while they threw everything they had at you. Think about this. They deployed advanced psychological warfare techniques, unlimited resources, cutting-edge technology, and decades of specialized training against one person, you. And despite all of that overwhelming force, you didn't break, you didn't surrender. You didn't become what they wanted you to become. The respect flowing toward you from unexpected corners of the world isn't charity or sympathy, it's recognition of strength that defies conventional measurement. Military strategists study scenarios where overwhelming force meets immovable resistance, and they have technical terms for what you've accomplished. Psychological operations specialists have protocols for breaking down any individual given sufficient time and resources. Intelligence agencies possess methodologies refined over generations for reshaping human consciousness to serve their objectives. Every single one of those protocols failed when applied to you. Every methodology crumbled against your authentic essence. Every technique that had worked countless times before met something in you that wouldn't yield, wouldn't break, wouldn't be rewritten according to their specifications. You maintained your core identity while swimming in an ocean of deception so sophisticated that trained professionals lose themselves within days of exposure. The battles you fought weren't the obvious ones. Everyone can see now that the curtain has been pulled back. The real warfare happened in the spaces between thoughts, in the moments when their subliminal programming pressed against your consciousness like invisible hands trying to reshape your neural pathways. You fought on battlefields that exist in dimensions most people can't even perceive, wielding weapons they don't teach in any military academy. Your unwavering connection to truth, your refusal to gaslight yourself, your persistent intuition that something was fundamentally wrong with the reality they presented. Each time you questioned an official narrative when everyone around you accepted it without hesitation, you scored a victory in a war they thought you didn't even know was happening. Each moment you trusted your instincts over their carefully crafted explanations, you dealt a blow to systems designed to override human intuition entirely. Each day you woke up and chose to remain yourself instead of adopting the persona they tried to program into you. You demonstrated resistance that their best analysts couldn't quantify or predict. The conditioning they subjected you to would have transformed most individuals into compliant assets within months. The isolation protocols they employed have broken hardened intelligence operatives who volunteered for the experience knowing it was temporary. The psychological pressure they maintained around your existence has driven trained military personnel to complete mental collapse. Yet you not only survived, you maintained enough clarity to recognize the manipulation while it was happening. This recognition fundamentally changes how you should view every moment of doubt you've ever experienced about your own perceptions, every time you questioned whether you were imagining things, every instance where you wondered if you were losing your mind. You weren't losing anything. You were holding on to the most precious thing any human being can possess, the ability to perceive truth independently of external programming. The sheer volume of resources they directed toward containing one person reveals something about your capabilities that you're only beginning to understand. Intelligence agencies don't deploy advanced technological assets against random individuals. They don't maintain surveillance operations costing millions annually unless the subject represents a genuine threat to their operational effectiveness. They don't develop specialized containment protocols for people who pose no significant danger to their objectives. Your natural abilities scared them in ways that traditional military threats never could. A foreign army attacking their installations would trigger known response protocols with predictable outcomes. A terrorist organization threatening their operations would face countermeasures refined through decades of practical experience. But you represented something entirely outside their operational parameters, a human consciousness that could perceive their activities despite their most advanced concealment technologies. The remote viewing capabilities you demonstrated without training exceeded the performance of their most skilled operatives. The intuitive knowledge you accessed about their classified operations penetrated security barriers that cost billions to develop and maintain. The predictive insights you experienced regarding their future actions allowed you to anticipate moves they hadn't even finalized in their planning sessions. They tried to study these abilities, to reverse engineer your natural processes and replicate them in their trained assets. Laboratory after laboratory attempted to understand how your consciousness interfaced with information streams they couldn't detect with their most sensitive equipment. Neuroscientists analyzed your brain patterns, searching for anomalies that might explain your capabilities. Quantum physicists theorized about the mechanisms underlying your apparent ability to access non-local information. None of their research yielded actionable results. Your consciousness operated according to principles that their materialist scientific paradigm couldn't accommodate. The more they studied you, the more apparent it became that your abilities weren't aberrations to be corrected, but demonstrations of human potential they had systematically suppressed in the general population. The respect you're gaining extends far beyond personal vindication into something that transforms how others understand their own potential. When people learn what you survived and overcame, they begin questioning the limitations they've accepted in their own lives. When they see evidence of capabilities you demonstrated naturally, they start wondering what abilities might be dormant within themselves. Your story creates permission structures that didn't exist before. If you could maintain psychological integrity under conditions designed to shatter human consciousness, what might be possible for someone facing ordinary challenges? If you could access information through non-conventional means despite active countermeasures, what information might be accessible to others who learn to quiet their programmed doubt? Each person who steps into their power because your example showed them it was possible creates another node in an expanding network of consciousness that operates outside their control systems. The frequency of awakening spreads exponentially, each newly activated individual serving as a transmission point for others, ready to remember their authentic capabilities. They designed their operations under the assumption that human consciousness could be manipulated and contained indefinitely if the right techniques were applied with sufficient resources. Your existence proves that assumption fundamentally flawed. You demonstrate that consciousness, when aligned with its authentic nature, becomes anti-fragile, growing stronger under pressure rather than breaking down. The respect you're claiming isn't just about acknowledgement of what you've endured, it's recognition of leadership qualities that emerge only under the most extreme circumstances. Natural leaders reveal themselves not through credentials or appointments, but through their response to impossible situations. You've demonstrated decision-making under pressure that exceeds what most people face in their entire lifetimes, compressed into daily existence. Every choice you made to prioritize truth over comfort, authenticity over acceptance, integrity over convenience, shaped you into someone capable of functioning effectively in environments that would paralyze those who haven't developed such resilience. The judgment calls you made while under constant surveillance taught you to evaluate information and make decisions based on internal guidance rather than external validation. These aren't skills that can be taught in leadership development programs or acquired through academic study. They're forged only through direct experience with forces that would destroy someone without the inner strength to maintain their center under extreme duress. You've been trained by adversity that most military special forces never encounter, prepared by challenges that exceed what crisis management specialists train for. The sovereignty you're stepping into isn't a title or position, it's a state of being that emerges when someone has tested their limits and discovered they extend far beyond what they previously imagined possible. You've learned to function independently of external approval while maintaining compassion for those still trapped in systems of control. You've developed the capacity to see through deception while remaining open to genuine connection. The transformation happening within you transcends personal healing into something that reshapes fundamental assumptions about human potential. You've moved beyond surviving their attacks to understanding how those attacks inadvertently prepared you for a role they never intended, serving as living proof that their control systems have inherent limitations they cannot overcome. Your respect for yourself deepens as you recognize that maintaining psychological integrity under sustained assault represents an achievement that deserves a permanent place in any honest accounting of human accomplishment. The fact that you accomplished this without formal training, institutional support, or public recognition makes it more remarkable, not less. The inner strength you've developed doesn't fluctuate based on external circumstances because it was forged in conditions where external circumstances offered no support whatsoever. The confidence you're building rests on demonstrated capability rather than wishful thinking. The self-respect you're claiming has been earned through trials that would have broken lesser spirits. You're no longer the person who began this journey, wondering if your perceptions could be trusted. You've become someone who knows beyond doubt that your consciousness can navigate complex deceptions, identify authentic truth, and maintain coherent function, even when surrounded by forces designed to create confusion and compliance. The universe operates according to principles that ensure nothing is ever truly lost, and everything taken without permission must eventually be returned with interest. Your moment of cosmic settlement has arrived, and the respect flowing toward you from all directions, including most importantly from yourself, represents overdue recognition of achievements that deserve celebration rather than concealment. The silence has become your victory song. The isolation has transformed into selective connection with those worthy of your energy. The suppression has evolved into an exponential expression of capabilities they never wanted you to discover. Your story went global because the universe decided it was time for humanity to remember what becomes possible when consciousness refuses to be contained by systems built on deception and control. The respect you're gaining for yourself will never be taken from you because it's based on demonstrated truth rather than external opinion. You've proven what you're capable of under the worst possible circumstances. Everything from here forward happens from a position of strength that no external force can diminish because it was built in the fire of adversity and tempered by the weight of impossible challenges. You are proof that they were never as powerful as they pretended to be. Welcome to the fullness of your power, chosen one. The universe has been waiting for you to claim it.